Well, hey, SamanthaKing.com. I love your domain name, by the way.
Thank you. Hey, how are ya?
It's good to see you. All right, so here's what I'm doing, Group Coach Nation. As you know, I like bringing people on here who are like actually legit good at what they do. So this is a first. That's why I titled this. This is truly a first for me. I've never interviewed somebody who builds and advises on audio courses. I think this is
Yeah.
really interesting, Samantha. So Samantha, you and I have been hanging out for months now. I don't know. I've
Mhm.
been on your show. I think we've shared a few platforms, a few virtual platforms together.
Yep.
And yeah, e-courses, all that stuff. We've all heard the drill, right? But Samantha's
Mhm.
actually good at like helping you build and figure out what should be and launch them. But Samantha goes down a different path. She's really like dialed in this audio thing. So we'll get into
Mhm.
that. Anyway, Samantha, thank you for like taking time just to educate. I truly appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with your audience. I think we always have a good time chatting, so this is gonna be fun.
I know. I'm glad we didn't chat a bunch before the show, so we can just chat here.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So, okay, I I am a huge Audible listener. Like
Mhm.
I listen to a ton of books. Here's my pattern. Pro tip, folks. Here is why I'm so smart. I listen to a sci-fi book, a business book, and some sort of like real person historical from all walks of life, all genres. I'm always having one of those three, like a biography, a business book, and a sci-fi book going at the same time.
Yeah.
That's ADD, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I consume all my content in audio. My
Mhm.
team literally reads my emails because I'm a horrible reader. You just corrected me on a misspelling on this title a second ago.
Yeah.
Like my computer reads to me. I literally don't consume anything in written format, and I'm just too stingy with my time to honestly sit in front of a screen and watch people talk, like course style.
Yeah.
So when I saw the audio thing, I was like, okay, that's actually like intriguing to the world I live in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Why
it is.
why are you doing it this way? Like what's your drive here?
So I think it's really there is that key point where that you just said, I think it's not just you anymore. People have spent the last couple of years sitting in front of their screens on Zoom calls, and really we want to get back out into the world. We want to get back into doing things. So whether it's that you're just very protective of your time, whether it's that you're like, hey, I just don't want to spend time in front of the screen anymore, or I know my audience doesn't. Audio courses are a really cool solution. And it actually started with me because, I consume more television than anybody else. I guarantee you. Like, I think in TV and movie lines. And so when I started to be like, you know what, like if I have to watch this again, like that's not good. Even with free challenges, I'm like, I got to sit and watch you live. Like, I don't want to do that. I
Mhm.
don't have the time. I've got so many other things on the go that if I have to sit for an hour and listen to you, then I really have to decide if this is something that I like need to know. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. And so I really dove into the audio and started testing it out. And I think too, I was also led that way with the rise of social audio and how popular it is and the stats behind podcasting and the conversion power behind podcasting. And it was like, there's something really, and it was something Katie Brinkley said to me. And I think it was like an episode for my summit like a year ago. And we both know Katie. We both were
Shout
just,
out to Katie Brinkley. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yeah.
And she said, there's a real intimacy in audio. And I thought, yeah, when you combine the fact that people can listen to this on the go, they can consume it in bite sized pieces, and there's that intimacy of having somebody in your ear talking to you. Yeah, this is something to test out. So I started testing it out with myself, with my courses and my clients.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so this is different. Let's just separate this out. So this is different than a podcast, and
Mhm.
it's different than me reading my own book out loud, audiobook style, right? This is
Yeah,
not
and
those
it's
two things. 'Cause-
different. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's different than just like an like where you upload your video course and break out the audio and put it in a private podcast
Okay,
feed.
that was gonna be my next question. Like what? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
So
different than
what
that.
is this then? Yeah.
So it's really about, and I love this. So you've most of us, and I know your audience for sure, like we had 3 years where like there was nothing to do but create content, right? So we've got all this content. And so how do we monetize it, right? Because again, it goes back to time. Like the hamster content creation wheel there is so consuming. Like it's all consuming, and you can't sustain it. We're business owners. We're not content creators. And we can't sustain it unless we're going to monetize it. So how do we do that? How do we find the things? And I love this because we have the stats, like find what your audience is loving right now. Do you just do like a post or a podcast series on this? Well, let's dive deeper into a course. And so what that, with an audio course, what that would look like is really we're designing a course, we're designing a curriculum, we're diving deeper into the topics they love, the content you've created that they've loved. We're going to dive deeper into that. We're going to give them a transformation that is involved in that, because our customers are going from A to B. And one of the big mistakes course creators make, whether it's audio courses or video-based courses, is that they try to put everything in the course. They're like, hey, this is my whole process, and I'm going to dump it into the course. And the brain doesn't learn that way. The brain, like I can tell you as a teacher, the brain doesn't learn that way. And your audience needs time to like have this one transformation, implement it, and then get ready for the next thing you're going to teach them, right? And so I love audio courses because we can really dive into the things they're loving right now, and start expanding their wins, expanding their journey with us, so that we can offer them other opportunities to continue to grow.
So is this kind of where's this placed in their progression of growth and education? Or is that maybe that's not the right question. Maybe some people learn the deepest stuff in audio. That's probably me. And some people are like the beginning of their education is audio, and they want to dive in deeper with something written. That's my wife. So maybe placement's the wrong question. Well, I don't know. What's your experience there?
Well, so I think that, I always say there's that value ladder of your suite of offers. And we talk about this, right? And I think that it is something that is going to be, I kind of think of it like car models, right? Like we had the base model, the new to us one that we got in high school that was like, your kids have one, right? That has like 300,000 kilometers, right? And that can usually be some of our
memory.
smaller.
That's a great memory. Yeah. My kids drive my 2004 Prius. For you listening in, I have a 2004 Prius with 300,000 miles on it. If you wonder if the batteries last, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all get it for, I have 5 kids, folks. They get it for 2 years, and they turn 16 until they're 18. And by then they have to have made their own money to buy their own car. So that is the Williams house rule. So yeah.
And the way cars are set up, and I love that you said that, is that like there's always, they have the models of cars and the way they are marketed to us are always based on a journey, right? And where we are in our lifestyle. And our customers are doing the same thing. So, that base model, that's their quick win to you. It might be their lead. It might be your lead magnet. It might be your podcast. Like it could be paid. It could be a paid digital product. They're getting to know you. They need a quick win to really say like, hey, this person is worth their salt and it's working for me. Then I always say the course is next. It's that sedan. So when your kids are 18 and they have to buy their own new car, right? That now we're ready. And I usually put the course there because this is where we need them to do some deeper learning. It can still be self-directed, which means you don't need to be there. I like to give what I call ancillary materials. So like for your wife, we would have some kind of workbook where she would dive deeper into it, where she would apply it. So she can just listen to it if that's her thing. But when you're designing a course, what makes it different than say a podcast or the audio recordings of your other stuff is that we're giving them the material all in the audio course. And then we're giving it to them at a deeper level where we're asking them to apply it, and we're giving them resources to actually do that, whether it's a template, a planner, a workbook, whatever it is. So that's how I kind of differentiate it. And I always say too, the other main difference between like, hey, this is just an audio recording of my video course is that your video course had slides. There's cues we're missing because we can't see the slides, right?
Yeah.
So
and notice, look in the bottom left corner. Make sure you don't lose this detail. Click here. You're like, what? Wait, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that in an audio course. And in a podcast, we're kind of talking about that surface level. We're sharing the strategies. With an audio course, we're diving deeper. We're going, okay, I shared this strategy with you. Now let's do something with it.
I'm really getting my head around this because I really actually like this idea. I think because audio is so meaningful in my learning style. Like it's really, to me personally, I would want to have this even in like our highest level masterminds, because a lot of people in my community, like, again, we're busy. So if there's a way I can say, hey, here's a section you can deep dive into if you really want to understand this deeply. And here's the audio. You can just do it in the car, take the next few weeks and like figure it out. Okay, give me an example. Well, first of all, where does this stuff show up on? Is it like, I mean, we host all of our stuff on High Level. A lot of people use Kajabi or whatever. Where do you host this content that can be like just plug and play in the car?
So for me, I think the people who are doing it best right now is Hello Audio and being able to have a private podcast feed, because they really just all we're doing is clicking it and they're giving it to it. They're saying, where do you want to listen to it? And we dump it in. So Hello Audio is a great way to do that. I mean, I work a lot with Thinkific and they integrate with Thinkific. So people who have other digital courses and are like, I have all this other stuff and now I want to add and go into audio courses, we can just kind of say, hey, let's put Hello Audio in. But you can use Hello Audio in anything, because really you're just giving them the link. I would also say too, I mean, you could just give them a website where they like a link to a web page where they click on audio files. If you're using like a WordPress thing, it's just, I always think like, how can this be super easy for them? They have a podcasting app on their phone probably. And that's what I like about Hello Audio is it just goes, okay, here, where do you want to listen to it? And then now it's in my podcasting app.
I see. So it goes straight into like my Apple podcasting app. So I can just play it.
It's right into your Apple podcasting, Google. I use Apple, but it goes into the Google stuff, all that, Spotify, all that goodies.
Nice. And there's a payment portal there. So they have to pay for that content, but then it dumps into their native app.
They have a landing. For me, I think they're working on landing pages. I don't think they have payment portals yet at Hello Audio, but you would have it behind a paywall.
Okay. So
you would just say, here's the link, click to listen. You can automate it, thank you page, whatever.
Perfect. Oh, that's really helpful. Okay. I'm getting my brain around this. Yeah. Okay. So give me an example of like, let's just say this is a podcast. Okay. So everybody listening in, this is a podcast, obviously. You're watching on YouTube or on a social platform, you're listening to it in podcast form.
Yeah.
We've kind of gone the overview normal podcast style. If this was an audio course, don't give away the farm here. Go to samanthaking.com. Her website's on the screen here, but if you're listening, it's heysamanthaking.com. Hey, HEY, SAMANTHAKING.com. And you can find out all about this stuff. Okay. So Samantha, give me an example, like just on your mark, set, go, of what like a minute or two of an audio course would be like around this topic, for example. So if I was hitting play right now, give me an example of what this would be like versus the podcast. Like, what are you going to say? How are you going to give me instruction? And how am I going to take action while I'm in the car? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, where does all this go?
Yeah. So let's think about a podcast. When you're listening to it, a podcast at its core is usually part of your marketing effort. So it's talking about the what and the why. It's not talking about the how. So your audio course, and with my clients, we go, okay, like they really loved this podcast. Like, let's say I had you on and we were talking about high level masterminds and I was like, oh my goodness, like they absolutely love this. I could go, if I was a subject matter expert in that, and create and say, okay, let's dive into this. They loved this episode. Okay, what do we need? What do they need to know to really see this strategy in their business? And that's the first course I would make. I'd be like, okay, let's just teach them, let's just show them the strategy and how it could work for them, right? And maybe that's the first module. And then the next module is like, okay, here's how, now that you can see the path, here's how you actually carve it out. And that's module number 2, right?
I mean, let's say there's some work to do. Like, okay, I'm giving you things to think about. Where does that work go?
Yeah. So the work would go. So let's say there is work and you're like, hey, and that's why I love something like Thinkific, because you can actually put the course in Thinkific. You can create this audio lesson and it doesn't have to be a video lesson. And you can also put workbooks in there. Right. So you might say, okay, there's, a workbook that I want them to do. And when you're doing workbook, guys, remember that most people don't have printers anymore. So let's make them fillable or Google Docs. It doesn't have to look pretty. For me, I'm totally fine if I open up a workbook and it's just a Google Doc and tells me how to navigate. And I'm like, okay, now I can type, right? So there might be a workbook involved. It might be, you can even have quizzes in there that are like, hey, which one is the best one for you? And help them. It kind of helps them define their strategy. These are all things you can actually do inside of Thinkific. And so you want to be thinking like, okay, how am I going to get these guys to apply what I've taught them in the audio file. Right? So how are they going to apply it? How are they going to show me? Like when we had workbooks in school, and this is where my teacher brain turns on, right? When we had workbooks in school, it wasn't so like our teachers were like, go sit at your desk and find something to do. It was so that it was always about, okay, my teacher just talked for 20 minutes and now I'm applying it in this work. Right now I'm actually doing what she told me to do and I'm trying
So
it out.
helpful.
Right? And then the teacher is taking it and marking it and checking for understanding. Right? So when you're designing a course, I mean, that's really what it is you're going, okay, what are I always say, keep it to 3 things. What are the 3 things they're going to be able to show me at the end of this? So for a mastermind one, like we're talking about, well, I need them to know the strategy behind it so they can pick the one that's right for them. I need them to know how to get started. And then, and here's the thing, I get so cranky about because nobody talks about in online courses. Then they need to know how to sell it. It is no good. The course is no good if it's sitting on your website on the internet and nobody's accessing it, right?
Can I pause you there and just say, everybody, like, big round of applause for Samantha. So many freaking people sell how to build an e-course. Who freaking gives a blank? If you're not selling it, it's no good to anybody and definitely no good to you. So thank you, Samantha.
Yeah, right. Like you've got to create, and on that note, I'm going to say the other thing is, don't try to give them everything in that course because they will not process it. They will not finish it. And I'm going to like drop a big bomb here, but like course completion rates right now are 3%. And that's because everybody is being taught, put everything in your course. The brain doesn't learn that way. And so my students are part of that 97% where I want them to be part of that 97% where people are finishing it, right? I want to get that number way up from 3%. And we do that by creating these courses that are bite-sized learning experiences. And then we move them into things like the Mastermind. So in the audio course, one of the things we would be talking about is the strategy, creating their roadmap of how to actually do it. Then I'd be talking to them about selling it. And usually I talk pre-sell, like let's get that proof of concept before we do all the work into it, like get a sales page up, maybe get a module or 2 recorded. And then we're going to drip content. We're going to give them content weekly so that we know people have bought it and we're creating it for customers. And then after that, the 4th module would be, where do they go next? Because their transformation is not done. They are not at B after they take your course. Where do they go next? Well, if it was a course on masterminding, we'd be going into masterminding, right? Like I always say, you want to move them after we give them these self-directed learning experiences, like your course where they do the learning and you're not there live. Then we want to move them into something that's like 50% self-directed, 50% personalized, where you start to show up live, you deepen that relationship, right? You're building a community here while you're helping your audience get from A to B.
This is brilliant.
And so these are the things that, like, this is all the stuff we'd be teaching in that course, right? All these nuggets that maybe you created a podcast episode on or a blog post on, but you never really dived into the how. And that's what's different about the course, is that your marketing is the what and the why, your course is the how.
Okay, so you're not only giving me a vision for so many things we should be doing and adding to even our highest level masterminds, but like just sitting here learning from you, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more from Samantha. Like you're so good at this. You're so good at this. So
thank you.
Here's the I guess let me just go this way, folks. Here's where I would go. First of all, obviously, go to heysamanthaking.com and learn more. Like, learn how to do this. Is like, if you're getting little ideas, we say this all the time, Samantha, Group Coach Nation, you know this, do work, get results. And then we just followed up with, please just do the right work. And we're all overloaded with too many directions we could go, too many places. So like, heysamanthaking.com will point you in the right direction. And Samantha, I know you're also like about to launch a mastermind, like you're going that direction. You've been teaching and coaching and training and doing it all for years, but how are you going to incorporate audio learning into your own mastermind, which is such a high touch, high experience thing where people can actually really hang out with you and get real results fast?
Yeah. So what I like to do is, and I have a private podcast feed that I have for my membership. I have it for, and I incorporate it too into that high level, like those high level experiences. And what it'll tend to be is, yes, it is replays of other that things that were videos before, but it's also recorded. Like you and I came on and we had a chat. So there's guest recordings, there's recordings of me teaching. And really it's, hey, we got off this mastermind call and this is what we were talking about. And I have more to say about that. Because of course, in a mastermind, let's talk about a mastermind, right? I'm not teaching. It's the collective hive that's coming together and sharing. So a lot of the time I would be facilitating, I would be guiding, I would be asking the right questions. Because that's really the power, is when you have somebody who knows to ask the right questions at the right time. But I might be like, hey, they were talking about this and this is really good. And I could probably riff for 10 minutes on this. I'll then record it in a podcast episode and send it to them. Right. And so it's really about deepening the learning. Right. And it's also about building the community. So another way I would use it, like I said, I have guest episodes on this private podcast feed. Sometimes it's experts like yourself, but other times it's community members. And so I might bring in people from my mastermind and interview them and dive deeper. And then, you send that out to the rest of the mastermind so they get to know each other better, right? Because community happens when people are connected just as much to each other as they are to you. And that's also when you see like the referrals happen, like the big brands. And this is what a lot of people are missing. And that's what I love about audio courses, is you can put it together quickly. People can actually consume it. They'll listen to it on the go, and you can start to create that community that your brand might be missing, right? Because think about the big brands, like they buy stuff because they're connected to each other. And they tell each other, this is great, you should buy that. Oh, have you tried her this? Have you done that? Right? That's when the magic happens.
Yeah, it really is. I love all that. And I love the connection that, anybody who's been in a mastermind, it's like a real one, a good one, not just I know. It's tough out there, folks. There's some bad experiences. We've all had them. But it's the connections that matter. It's not only our willingness to stick with a process and crack the code until we get it. Obviously, we have to do our work. But the connections really make a difference. So I love the way you can use that tool to connect. That's super cool. All right. I know we got to go in like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. You're a super busy person.
Yeah.
We're both really active parents. We have lots going on with kids. I love the model that I have. I know you love the model you have because it allows you to have a life around work. So why is course creation that type of life for you? I've never been a course creator professionally. So why does it work that way for you?
So what I like about course creation is, one, it's lead generating for the other stuff that takes more of my time to show up and serve my audience. So it's constantly lead generating. I love that. I love that I don't have to be there to do it, but I also believe in giving back and sharing my knowledge. That's why I became a teacher in the first place. So it kind of allows me to do that and kind of fuel my own passion, as well as be something that's working on its own, right? So a lot of us, like, especially with your audience, they probably had done for you stuff, and then they were one-on-one coaching, and they were like, Chris, I need a different way to do it. And you were like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do high-end masterminds, right? Because this allows you to have more of an impact, right? Because when you're doing that one-on-one service and that's all you're doing, you're going to hit what I call that like income earning potential ceiling, right? Where like there's only so many hours in the day. And so how do we create multiple streams of income that kind of just work on their own? Like you sell them, you get people into them, and then they do the rest of the work, right? Then you have a funnel that after the audio course, they go to the mastermind that Chris is teaching you, right? How do we do? And so that's really why I love courses, is that I can say to you, okay, well, let's sit down. Like we can go at it from like, what is your audience loving right now? And then what we're going to sprinkle into that development of the course is like, okay, what do you want them to know about this before they come into your mastermind? That's what we need to teach them. We need to get them ready so that they go, the mastermind, of course, that's the next step, Chris. Like teach me what to do next, right? And so that's what I really love about this, is that when we work with courses, we can create the course on our own time. So if it's like, I used to homeschool my kids. So like if it was like, in the afternoon when they were outside playing, because we had been homeschooling all morning, I can sit down, I can record my course, I can do my thing, and then I can bring it to market. Right. I can do a lot of things, and it comes to market. Then it starts working. and I can promote my main offer, which is for your audience, probably a mastermind. That's why they're here.
Yeah.
Right? So the course then becomes this thing that when you're on a sales call, it's like, oh, I'm not ready. I don't know. Or you're like, you know what? You're not ready for the mastermind yet. You can say to them, take this course.
Yeah.
So you're still helping them. You're still serving them. You're still producing income, but you're not taking the wrong people into your mastermind. You're saying, you know what? You're not ready for this. So take this, because you know when they're done that course, they're going to be ready for the mastermind. And you've got a sales funnel in the background to help them move towards that on autopilot.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely. I love that. I love the life freedom you have, and I love the creativity freedom you have.
Yeah.
And those two things are, as entrepreneurs, those are so important to all of us. And it's
Yeah.
so hard to find. It's really hard to find it. We all think we're going to jump right out and do it. But oh my gosh, we've all worked the long hours, and we've all not.
Yeah,
made
we've
money.
all
So,
looked around our office and gone, I have seemingly created a business that is like twice the work of corporate, twice the hours, and none of the stability, like none of
no
the
wonder
freedom,
most people don't do this.
right? And so then we go, there's got to be an easier way. And I think that's the key, is that like what Chris is teaching you and what I teach is more like, hey, let's design something that fits your life. And so we kind of come at, like, that's what you and I have in common, Chris. We come at it from, okay, what life do you want?
Yeah.
And how do we do that? I mean, I designed mine because eventually I want to run my business from my RV, which means sometimes there won't be internet, right? So like, how do we do that? And I think that's the key. It's really first planning out what you want from life, and then designing offers that will bring you the money to live that life.
Perfect ending. Samantha King. Samantha, HeySamanthaKing.com. HeySamanthaKing.com. Thank you, Samantha. Like I learned today. I've never had anybody on here talk about audio courses. Did not even think about that being a thing until I saw that on your website. So thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love chatting.
I know, you're awesome. Group Coach Nation, do the freaking work. Get the results. Just do the right work. If this is your direction, just drop a comment here, tag Samantha, ask us any questions. As always, in any platform you find this on, if we don't know the answer, we will push you back to Samantha because she's the expert here. So like, build a relationship with the person that matters. I've known her for a while. She's super cool. You're going to get the help you need. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Talk soon.
Thanks for having me.